Hi, I'm Amber.
And I'm Jessie.
And this is Glowing in Tech. Sponsored by Makers.
So today we are joined by the wonderful Keseana. And would you be able to give us a little bit of an introduction to you?
So I'm Keseana. I'm a Salesforce solution engineer apprentice. So I spend 80% of my time working as a solution engineer and also studying towards my degree at Ada College.
Amazing. And that leads us nicely on to
the industry insight in 5. So Keseana's going to give us a little bit of an insight into the industry she works in and why she finds it interesting.
Yeah. So in Salesforce, we specialize in cloud computing. So essentially, we are selling our software to different customers. As a sales engineer, part of my role is understanding the business pain points, doing customer discoveries. So then we're able to use the software to actually build a solution that maps out those business challenges. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're fine.
That's doing very well.
Okay.
So what is it about it that you found it? Why do you find that interesting? What was it that got you interested in this role?
I think what got me interested in this role, so just to give a bit of a backstory, I was initially going to go down the software engineer route. So I did computer science in A-levels. I did a coding course. I even got an offer from a company in terms of doing a software engineer course. And then I found the role of a sales engineer, and I don't think a lot of people know how this role works. And I really like that it is more focused on actually presenting yourself to the customer and kind of being involved in that customer facing interaction. Obviously, when you first start, it can be a bit nerve-wracking in terms of presenting and demoing to different customers, and you're kind of having to control all the different screens. But it can be very rewarding because you're kind of part of that business communication as well, rather than just being behind the scenes.
That's really cool. And so something that is interesting about that is like, not only are you the customer facing sales side of it, but you do have to have that technical knowledge. So what is that like? Like, how are you balancing learning about both of those things at once?
So I think that's the hardest part in terms of being able to keep up to date with all the different changes within tech as well, and then building a solution that really maps the customer challenges. So one thing I do is obviously keep up to date with news articles. I'm sure we all heard about ChatGPT. But then because I study towards a degree as an apprentice, that kind of keeps me up to date with all the new trends that are happening and innovations as well. So something that I do is I always try, when you go into a different customer interaction, it's always a different customer. It's always a unique challenge. It's always a niche experience. So you kind of have to tailor that experience or tailor that demo to actually map their business problems. And within that, that's where you start to actually learn something new. So every time you go into a demo, it might be something different as well, based upon those niche challenges that that business or industry may have.
When you're studying for your apprenticeship, like your degree qualification, how much has your ability to code helped you with that, and what are the modules kind of like for that?
Within my degree apprentice program, we had a 6-week boot camp, and essentially we had to complete 3 modules within one. So one of them was building out a calculator, working with different APIs as well. So again, that previous coding language that I had in terms of studying at A-levels and doing my own coding courses with Generation actually, that really helped as well. And it actually helped some of my colleagues that were a part of the apprenticeship program as well. So I think technical language can be very helpful, especially when you're trying to communicate to the customer the benefit of the solution. Because in a pre-sales way, you're kind of like the sales engineer and you're working alongside an account executive. So they kind of understand the business challenges, but you kind of work as that legion between the tech and the actual business requirements. So again, they're more likely to actually take on what you're saying on board because you obviously have that technical understanding, but then you can also feed into those challenges based upon those discoveries that you've had with the customer.
That's cool. And I'm really curious because I see it as a thing that can happen quite often, is like having to, or choosing between software engineering and more sales role. What was it that won you over in the end, that was like, yeah, this is what I want to do instead of?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, I would say it's fun. I think obviously from what I've heard from you, Amber, I know software engineering, working on tickets. I know that's really fun. Like I think it's the same kind of principle in terms of solving a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea is that you're kind of just more involved. I think based upon my previous experiences when I was younger, I always thought I was like the quiet person that probably just wanted to sit behind the classroom or something. But I think as you learn more about yourself, I realized that I did like to talk. I did like to go on stage. I did like to present. And I think sales engineering kind of opened up that world for me. It's kind of the both. I get the best of both worlds because I get to solve problems and then I also get to present to customers. So I think if you have those people facing skills, then that would be good.
So me and Keseana met through a Makers Pair programming event, and so she was really pivotal in me learning how to use Code Wars, like me being able to break down a question, because she was able to solve things and I wouldn't understand how she would be able to link data structure, like the data types and different methods and functions that you can use to solve a problem. So it was really helpful to pair program with you, and I can owe it all to you in terms of like me being able to do the things. So it's really cool to know that like you not only knew how to code and like were developing in the technical sense, but also apply that technical knowledge to your role now, and just the relevance that it has, and also the fact that when you've been doing and your degree apprenticeship, just how much that has put you ahead in terms of being able to do those kind of challenges, like creating a calculator and the projects that you do. That's what I had to say.
That's great, because it seems like even that period of time a couple of years ago, Keseana was demonstrating the communication skills to be able to translate technical concepts to a non-technical person.
And make it simplified as well. Yeah. Like, sometimes you're pairing with someone and they're just doing... Me and Keseana know about having like experiences with different characters when it comes to pair programming. And it was just so nice for me to be with someone that just broke it down in such a simplified way to help me grow, and also like the fact that it was also benefiting you directly to be able to explain the way that you think, and the fact that it also accelerated your learning as well by teaching me.
Yeah, I think pair programming is where you really understand the type of people you can work with.
Yeah.
Remember our experiences. I think there's certain people that would do pair programming and they just want to go straight into the problem. You see them moving and typing and you're thinking, okay. And you just sit back and then they're like, okay, now I can answer your input. I was like, okay, well, now I'll give you my input. But I think that's a really good like collaboration that you can incorporate into your, even if you're not into tech. I think just the idea of listening to other people and collaborating with other people, I think people always forget those soft skills.
Yes.
Even as part of like getting my role or like getting other roles, most of the time you have to go for assessment centers or technical interviews, and I think people really forget these small like soft skills you can have to really sell yourself, to be honest.
I love that.
Something that I think is integral to your journey is like the consistent way that you've been earning certifications, doing your degree alongside your full-time role, like as part of it. How do you think you've been able to balance that learning with actually your output as well? Because I think that's a tough one. It's not easy.
So I'll be honest, at the start, I didn't. I think it's one of those things where it's just something you learn. Obviously, when you first enter any company, I think the experience is just overwhelming. Like there's a lot of things you have to learn. And then for us as apprentices, we also had to maintain our degree on top of that. So it was kind of, first I was pushed into Salesforce, and then it was being pushed into the apprenticeship program, and we had that 6-week boot camp. And I think at the start, I think a lot of the other apprentices, like colleagues that I was with, will probably say our time or our work-life balance wasn't the best at the start. But I think it's something you learn. Like you learn that it's not practical to stay past, 7 p.m. doing work whilst, when you have the day, the rest of the day to enjoy yourself. And then I also think you get used to it. I think one of the things I will say is when I first started my apprenticeship journey, I was in lockdown. I don't know why. Lockdown, I seem to have a lot of energy. We were getting up at 9 a.m. doing like coding exercise, clearly. I think over time you realize you're not going to have that energy throughout the whole entire year. You start to deplete naturally. So I think I've learned to work smarter, not harder.
I love that. So you spoke about having like a lack of work-life balance. Was this something that you were able to communicate amongst like your cohort in your apprenticeship? And were you also... How did you navigate that? Did you communicate that to your manager?
Yeah.
How did you end up balancing that out eventually?
I think the Salesforce side was fine. I think it was when it's a lot of the apprentices, we got like pushed into the degree section. I think what happened was, obviously we weren't used to it again. And then we had all these coursework. We had all this work to do that was actually going to be stored against our grades. And I'm someone, if you tell me that this is a grade.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that I have to worry about. Like, even if you think about, if I think back to GCSEs or something like that, like I would revise probably last minute, but I would revise because it's like the grade just meant a lot to me. I think I had to move away from that kind of thought, like thinking as well, because I think sometimes when you put so much stress on like this one thing,
and the outcome of it, not necessarily the process.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So I think one thing I did was, and I at one point is that because a lot of the apprentices are going to hate me for saying this.
Spill the tea.
Well, with the cohort I was working with, I think a lot of us didn't have as much coding experience. So, you know, I was supporting.
You are doing the thing.
I was supporting. I think there was a lot of burnout. I think naturally the course content became easier because we got used to it. So I think my work-life balance was just getting accustomed to, okay, I need to do coding. I need to complete this module XY time, because obviously we had a module like every 2 weeks that we had to complete, and then we would have it at the end of the week. So I kind of knew the structure. I think once I familiarized myself with the structure and what was the format, when would I need to complete a module, I think that's where I got more used to it and said, okay, I'll block out this time in my calendar. Now, one thing I will say, shouldn't have done that. One thing I will say as part of like the apprenticeship on the Salesforce side is they give us like full availability in terms of like blocking out our calendars when we want to get apprenticeship work done, because I think they obviously understand that we need to complete the apprenticeship side and get that degree out the way for the 3 years. So yeah,
I love that.
No, I think it's a really important one to recognize as well, because I think it was the same with our boot camp. We were very intense at the beginning. Like we stayed consistent throughout, but like especially in the beginning. And it's a mix of the steep learning curve, not necessarily adjusting to the routine yet, and just like the whole learning how to learn that domain of knowledge, right? So it does get a little bit easier with time, and it's nice to hear that you were able to adjust, and hopefully it's a little bit less intense now.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot less intense. I'm in my final year, so now it's just like focusing on our EPA.
What's the EPA?
Did I say it properly? I think did I say it properly? EPA. Yes, EPA. It's our endpoint assessment.
Okay.
So essentially, it's kind of like doing a dissertation at the end of the end of the apprenticeship journey, and just working on something within the company with a business objective, writing about how you were involved. It's a lot of work. Yeah, you remember your dissertation days.
Go. Anyway.
Something that I love about your journey is that how you're able to incorporate your passion into your job. And one of the things you do is work with charities. Would you be able to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on the philanthropy lead for Boldforce. That's an ERG group inside Salesforce. And we just work with non-profit organizations, and we specialize in kind of bridging the gap between marginalized communities. So again, this is something really meaningful for me because obviously I am a Black woman, and I love to make those same opportunities for other people that face discrimination at any point. So one of the things we did was some of the things we've done is I've organized charity events where we've brought some of our partners such as Football Beyond Borders and Urban Synergy, and we bring in students to actually do a highly engaged session in terms of finding more about tech careers. We bring in other sponsors, so we had Generation as well, and they kind of support different young people as well into different tech careers and offer them courses. So I did a 6-week boot camp with them actually, and they just get you upskilled to work into a corporate environment. And then we also had the lovely Amber speaking about her challenges and what she enjoyed about a software engineer role. I did another event with Football Beyond Borders as well. So we did a similar format, but this was more of just a technical day. So just kind of learning. So I think we used the Thunkable application, and we kind of let them create their fake application, and they had to present. And I think that's really good. Yeah. I think people forget about those presentation skills, because there's been times when I remember when I first started my role, when I first started Ada, and I was completely silent. I wouldn't turn my camera on or speak. So I think these things about getting students up there into those positions and presenting and actually talking, I think it's really good people building skills that I think is fundamental across any career you do. And then I also did we also helped with Black History Month last year. So I had the lovely Amber. You guys can see, I'm always giving Amber an opportunity. So she spoke about imposter syndrome, and I think that was a very valuable session because she spoke about the different types of imposter syndrome. She spoke about the different ways to navigate them. I think she even had tools around how you can navigate them as well. So that was really good and really informal. And I think one thing that I really liked is I think we all understood that everyone can experience imposter syndrome in their lives. Like, it's not just confined to Black women, but I think the point was really good as well. Yeah.
No, I love that, and it's so incredible to see your journey, especially. So going from being quite nervous to present, and to now empowering other young individuals to be able to present. How has that journey been like for you in terms of like building up your confidence to present in these professional settings, and especially going from originally being onboarded in a virtual environment to now doing these big presentations in front of hundreds of people in person? So how has that been for you?
Yeah, so I did do a customer event presentation at the Excel, and I don't know, I think I still get nerves, like even doing this, like before I actually have to present, it's like beforehand I get really nervous. I think I just fake it. Or I will say as well, practice makes perfect. Like I think one thing I will say that's quite challenging as a solution engineer or as a sales engineer that a lot of people don't realize is that you're focusing on so many things. So obviously you have the demo that you've built based upon the customer requirements. And then you kind of have, if it's a live demo, then you obviously have to move the screens. You have to obviously type in input. So you have a demo pathway. And then whilst you're doing that, you're actually speaking. So you're actually saying, this is the value you're going to get from this. This is what we're going to see. And then you're also looking around the room and checking that people are engaged, because you obviously want to make sure the client's engaged. So, and then we obviously have naturally things don't go the way you want. You know, sometimes I tell myself, don't click that button, and I click the button and there's an error. I'm just like, this was supposed to happen.
You need to be able to like navigate that live error, right?
Yeah. So I think with that part, it's like, I think you have to put yourself in those situations where things go wrong. So it kind of enables you to keep that professional demeanor in terms of when things go wrong, not that it was supposed to be part of, like this was how the demo was supposed to go, but kind of maintaining that professional demeanor in front of the customer and just putting yourself in those situations. Like I remember when I presented live, and because I was doing it live, and you always have to like Wi-Fi issues, like it's a nightmare for a sales engineer when the Wi-Fi is slow, because you know you're sending something, you're looking around, and then obviously you probably go back to your talk track. So talk track is just kind of like your demo pathway or what you want to say. You're just trying to reinforce your points, and you're taking that all into consideration. Like I think the audience probably knows, or sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they don't realize. But yeah, you have to kind of just maintain composure, I would say. Yeah, that's the only thing I'll say is quite challenging, but practice. Yeah.
Love it. And something that I think is really cool about the stuff that you're doing with these nonprofits is like definitely empowering younger people to understand what's expected of them in the corporate environment. Yeah. Like coming from a low socioeconomic background and not having parents who worked in corporate roles, I had no idea what you were supposed to act like in an office. I didn't know like how you're supposed to compose yourself, how you like what like kind of like corporate small talk, like all of those things. You don't learn that unless someone shows you. So I really love that that's something that you have an emphasis on. And something I wanted to touch on there as well is like you are relatively junior in what you're doing. You're an apprentice, you're doing your degree, but you've actively sought a leadership position through this nonprofit. And I love that you're doing that because you're empowering yourself to learn, become a good leader, and you're putting yourself in a place where you can be seen as a leader. Yeah. And I just think, it's just incredible. I love it. I think it's something. Thank you. Humble. I had to say this. My God, that's me. That's I. No, but seriously, I think it's something that we should think about doing more. Obviously, don't burn yourself out. Don't take on too many things and only do what you have the capacity to do. But it's a great example of how you can set yourself up for leadership positions in the future because you've got this on your CV now. Yeah. You have led an initiative that's done X, Y, Z. You've got examples of it. Like, it's just,
Thank you. Amber, your facial reaction.
I just love it. Do you know what? Like, the things that Keseana's doing is just so incredible. Thank you. Just to see just how much you've progressed. I just love it. And the way that you're shining in your role, you're getting recognition, you're getting really good feedback. Like, you're really doing the things, and you know how much I love to see it.
Yeah, be in a place that allows you to do that and make sure you have those opportunities, because it's if you're listening and you're feeling like you've not had the opportunity to do that, then maybe it's not the right environment for you.
And also, like, you've sought out opportunities. Like, no one said, hey, Keseana, can you be this? Like, you've actually gone out of your way to see opportunities within the business and gain visibility. And that's really, really cool. So sometimes it's also a case of, if you feel like you don't have many opportunities, like, to seek them out. And like, probably if you need that budge or you need some help, definitely reach out to someone either in your organization or outside of your organization, just to encourage you to pursue these things. Because sometimes, like, how did you know, or what made you volunteer for these kind of roles and seek that out?
Yeah, so I'm gonna shout someone out, and she left, but so Victoria Pokey, I'm actually saying your name. I remember just seeing her. So she's a Black woman as well. I remember seeing her in one of my, because she actually joined my team. I remember actually seeing her, and the way she spoke about Black issues, the way she articulated like what she's gone through in her career. And then we did one-to-ones. I just got to know her. I was like, let's put in a one-to-one session. And she was like, come on, Keseana, join Bold Force. And I think that made me realize how diversity is so important, and inclusion. Because I'm not even going to lie, when you do see someone like you and you kind of just get them out and you're like, hello, how are you? It made me feel a lot more comfortable in my role. And then I think she also gave me the kind of push to say, do this, do that. It was just, she was amazing. She was amazing.
So she acted as your mentor, like?
I don't think so. I have like several mentors within. Well, I have one primary mentor. So her name's Katie Sutton within Salesforce, and obviously she's been amazing. Like when I first started Salesforce, she got me involved in opportunities. She did discovery with me. Like, she was probably the best mentor I've ever had. And then I also had another kind of mentor but buddy within my team. So her name was Ruby. And she was a bit more younger. She kind of just made it a bit more comfortable as well. So I think it's really good to have like I think it's good to have mentors for different things.
Yes.
You know, there can be mentors that are trying to improve your technical knowledge, mentors for comfortability, and mentors where you can just be like, you know, I'm having a bad day. You know, Ruby left the team and Victoria came, and she kind of was my one-to-one like mentor as well, and that's when we started speaking on Black issues. She joined Bold Force. She was like the lead of Bold Force, so she spoke around some of the charities she's helped, how she's kind of helping towards that Bold Force mission as well with what she's done. And I was just, the way she used to just articulate, like, I can't even say how good she was, but the way she used to articulate Black issues and the way she would articulate it to other people that were non-Black was really good. I think a lot of Black people can struggle with that sometimes, I would say. You know, articulating it in a way where it's not so problem-driven and solution-orientated, and that's what I liked about her. And then, obviously, later on in the team, I've had Paul Irwin. So he has a wealth.
You're really naming them.
Okay, I won't say them. Should I say them?
Yeah, of course.
It's fine. And then later in the team, I had Paul. So he had a wealth of telephony knowledge, upskilled me. So he was kind of like my technical mentor. Yeah. So I think it's really good to go into a company and be like, okay, this is what I want this person for. And, you know, and all the time it can be like a mutual like value relationship as well. It's not just take, but also what are you doing for them? And it can be a nice like relationship in terms of like a friendship as well, which is pretty good.
Definitely. It's mentorship is an important part of any person's development. And I like the kind of separation and finding the people that are best for the different parts that they can help you with. Before we end the first episode, I'd like to ask what advice you would give to anybody that is considering solutions engineering, and kind of any tips for trying to understand it a little bit more and find out if it's for them.
Okay, so one advice I would say for solution engineering, first of all, do you like to solve problems? I think that's a big thing. Also, I would say, do you like to engage with people? Because I think sometimes you probably like the whole technical. Sometimes you don't even have to be technical for a solution engineer role, I'll be honest. But do you like to engage with people, but do you really like to understand their challenges? Do you like to solve their problems as well? And do you like to be the forefront in terms of actually presenting, this is what I did to solve X, Y, Z? Is something I would say. And also, do you like that, like, I wouldn't say tingly feel, but that feeling of just, that's a weird word, but do you like that feeling of just like presenting and something going wrong and just kind of dealing with that and navigating that as well? Because I think that kind of rush is what comes with being a solution engineer, and kind of how to navigate yourself out of those solutions, because it's going to happen. Like, Wi-Fi tech will
Yeah.
fail at one point. So how are you able to I wouldn't say waffle, but how are you able to talk? How are you able to present? How are you kind of able to remain like a calm composure is something I would say. Getting involved. So it depends if you're new in your career like me. So I'm 21.
Oh,
21.
Yeah, if you're new. So I did an apprenticeship journey with I did an apprenticeship with Salesforce. So I actually signed up via Ada College. So they have a lot of apprenticeships that they have available. They do have some in software engineering as well. If you're actually changing careers, if you're switching pathways, I would say to start getting involved in presenting. I'm happy to have a conversation on LinkedIn if you would like. Keseana Robinson, will it pop here?
Yeah,
do
we'll
that.
have it. We'll have it. And we'll have all the notes and everything you mentioned in the show notes as well.
Yeah, is one thing I would say as well. Yeah, and I would say start, like, you can even find YouTube videos around a day in the life of a solution engineer, what it entails. I would say using resources like that to just get an idea of if it's for you, I would say. I think sometimes, I guess I'm fortunate enough to be quite early in my career, so I don't have to make like a full decision, like this is what I want to do. And I have full autonomy to kind of switch between different careers. That's one thing I would say to young people as well. Just enjoy it. Like, I think just move between different things, see what you like, see what you don't like. Like, you might prefer something more technical. You're young. Like, there's ways you can grow as well. So
words of wisdom from Keseana. And that's wrapping up part 1.
Thank you so much, Keseana. Stay tuned for next week. We'll be releasing part 2, where we'll be speaking to Keseana about her career challenge, and
she'll be spilling her tech tea.
yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give us a like, 5 stars on Apple or Spotify, review, comment.
Watch us in 4K on YouTube.
Available on all major podcast platforms.